Hello students, welcome to this session on PHP. Right, so in this class we'll be learning about PHP global variables, also called as super globals. Right, so what is a super global? Now super globals were introduced in PHP 4.1 and they are basically built-in variables that are accessible in all scopes. Right, so they are always accessible in all the scopes. Right, so some predefined variables in PHP are super globals. Right, so let me give you an example. Some predefined variables in PHP are super global, which means that they are accessible regardless of what scope they have, right? So you can access them from any function, within any function, outside the function as well, right? So a few of the super global variables which are available in PHP are dollar globals, dollar underscore server, post method, get method, session, and few more like dollar files, dollar cookie, dollar env, right? So there are so many different super globals which are available in PHP, right? So the first thing which we are going to learn about super global is dollar globals, right? So what is dollar globals? Dollar globals is a PHP super global variable which is used to access global variables from anywhere in the PHP script. Maybe if the variable is inside a function as well, so this particular global super global variable can access that particular variable outside the function as well, right? So PHP stores all the global variables in an array called dollar globals. The index holds the name of the variable, right? So index holds the name of that particular variable. Now let us see an example of how exactly this can be used so that we can actually get the data from the particular function from using globals. So I am in my code editor. I'm going to create a new file called global.php, right? So I'm going to give you an example of how exactly this global works. Now I'm going to create a PHP script here. This is how you create a PHP script, that is the starting tag. Next I am going to introduce a variable called $a with value 100. Again $b with value 200, right? So basically there are two variables right now in our script. Now I'm going to create a function. So let me create a function add. So I'm going to add this both of the variables. So for that, inside a function I'm going to use globals. Now how to use globals? Dollar, you can see all these are available here, right? So you can see cookie, these are all the super global variables: cookie, env, files, get, post, request, server, session, right? So again you can see the global variables here. So once you click on this global, you can automatically get the globals there. Now you have to use a square bracket, and inside that I'm going to use one more variable called this, that is z equals, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add that both of the variables. How to add it? The same way, right? So here I'm going to add a plus I'm going to add globals and b, right? So put a semicolon and close the function. So I have closed the function. Now I have to call that function, right? So I'm going to call that function like saying this, and I'm going to echo $z, because I've created a variable z here. You can see this global z, so I'm going to declare it here, right? So after doing this, I'm going to close the PHP script. Now to see the output of a PHP script, you cannot use live server here. There is no live server option available here, right? So what you have to do, you will have to go to the browser. First of all, you have to start the XAMPP. So first let me start the XAMPP. Go to XAMPP control panel and start the Apache server here. So once you start the Apache server, PHP is installed in your system and you can execute the PHP script. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to use localhost comma, I have added that in the form, that particular thing is in the form, slash, I'm going to give the file name here. So the file name is global.php. Executed, you can see the answer is 300 here. Now if I make any changes here, maybe I'm going to put 2000, right? So again refresh it, you can see 2100, right? So this is how you can use globals if you want to get the data, get the variable from different scope as well, right? So this is how you use global. If you want, you can add it, you can make it multiplication as well. So if you want, just refresh it, you can see it is multiplied 2000 into 100, you have got this answer, right? So this is how you can use globals in your programs. So the next super global variable available in PHP is $_server. Now $_server is a PHP super global variable which holds information about headers, paths, script locations, right? So there are around 5 to 10 important elements in $server. You can use anything. So I'm going to show you how exactly to use it. So the example shows how to use it. So let me just show you the few of the $server elements here. You can see PHP self, gateway interface, server ADDR, server name, it tells the server name, right? So you can see so many different things here. So let us do an example of how exactly we can use this. In the global itself, what I'm going to do, I am going to add HTML here first. So I'm going to add HTML. So I've got this body, and inside this body I'm going to create a PHP script. Enter. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to echo the server details. Now underscore, you can see the server here. Just click on the server. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use PHP self. So this will give us the file name which we are in right now. So control save, again go back, refresh. There's some error unexpected on line 11, so let us check. Okay, we have to close this, right? So we have to close the PHP script. Yes. Now refresh. You can see the file path here. First it is a folder form, then we have global.php. You can see form and global.php, right? So this is how server can be used. The same way, there are different types of server arguments which are available. For example, I'm going to use server name right now. So for that, echo $_server, right? So again open this. Now I'm going to use server underscore name, right? So this is server name. I'm going to put a semicolon. Now again refresh. You can see the server name is localhost here, right? So if I want, I can give the BR here. Maybe I'm going to use BR. So again refresh. There's some error again. Inside the PHP you'll have to use echo for that. So echo. So now your BR will work. You can see the localhost. The server name is localhost here, right? So that is about your server name. Now next thing we have is the script name, right? So script name is just like PHP self. So let me add echo $server. I'm going to add script underscore name, right? So again script underscore name, close this. Now go back, refresh. You can see the same thing. PHP self and script underscore is as simple as the same thing. Now what we're going to do, what user agent we are using to get this output, the browser details, right? So to get the browser details of it, so we have to use this echo, use underscore server, open this. Here I'm going to use HTTP underscore user agent, right? So user agent will give us the what kind of user agent we are using here. Again refresh. You can see we are using Mozilla 5.0, Windows NT, you can see AppKit, right? So this is the user agent, you can see, right? So if you want to get the referrer, right? So you can use referrer as well. You can directly use HTTP underscore referrer here. Instead of that, if you want, you can use HTTP referrer, right? So once you use this, again click on refresh. You can, there's some error, HTTP. Okay, I'll have to see the spelling here. REFERER, right? HTTP referrer. If it does not work, I told you, you can directly use user agent here, right? So again refresh. It's the same thing happens with the HTTP referrer as well, right? So you can use that, and if you want to use the website as well, you can just check which website are you there in, and for that you'll have to use HTTP host. So this is how you can use server in your programs when you're actually working with the database and all those things, right? So this is about your server. Now very important thing which actually you guys need to know about is $post, right? So what is PHP $post? Now PHP $post is a PHP super global variable which is used to collect form data after submitting from a HTML form with method equals post, right? So to get that particular data, we are going to use post. So $post is also widely used to pass variables. So this is an example of how actually we can use post here. So let me show you the output of this. So again I'm going to create a form. Maybe I'm going to create a new one called one.php, right? So I'm going to create a file called one.php, and here I'm going to use a form. So again get the HTTP structure first, and after that in the body section I'm going to use form. Here I will have to use post method, that is method form method equals post action is equal to the same thing, right? So we don't have to give anything there, right? So if you want it to be PHP self, you can also give that. So here you will have to include your PHP, right? So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to include a PHP echo. Again you can use $server here. So $server of PHP self. Again close it. Again you can close this with action, right? So you can do that. Now after that what you can do is, you can, let me close it here, and I'm going to close it here, right? So let me again close the PHP tag here, right? So this is done. Now form definition of form is done. So here I'm going to put name input type. So let me add input type, right? So input type equals text. So our input type is text. Let me add it properly here. Yes, input type is text. Name equals f name, right? So first name basically. Now close this, enter. Now we don't want any other thing, so I'll just add input type submit. I'll just add a simple thing called input type submit and close it. Now I'm going to close the form. After closing the form, again refresh it, go back and check the output. So here instead of global.php it is one.php. So here I'm going to use one.php, right? So you got this name. So if I click on this name, submit, nothing happens, right? So I want something to happen. I want, using this particular post method, I want to retrieve the data from that particular form. So to do that we have to write a PHP script. So let me add a PHP script here, enter. Now if I'm going to use this if here, if server of request method. Remember, this request method must be used because we are requesting the data. So if request method is equal to post, since we have used post here and we have to use post here as well. So again put this, again $name is a variable, it should be $name, then again $post, we are retrieving the data from that particular form, right? So for that again put this. Now you will have to put your first name, whichever name you have given here, it should match here as well. If you give some other name, your data will not be fetched. Close it. Now again if empty, right? So if empty, that means if the name is empty. Now see, if the name is empty, you can see the name is empty. What you have to do, you'll have to echo name is empty. If it is empty, you'll have to echo that. Else what you can do is, again open this, else you can directly display the name. If it is empty, tell name is empty, right? So you can close it here. So after this, close it. Now your program is done. So I'm retrieving the data using this method post, and I'm displaying the name here. So how to check the output? Again refresh it once again. Now I'm gonna put my name, submit it. There's some error here, so let us check what is that error. Again let us check if server request method is equal to post $name, again $post of f name, if empty name echo name is empty, else echo $name. So this is echo $name, right? So echo $name. Now here again refresh, let me refresh, you can see it takes it. Now again submit. If I want, I can put other name here. You can see my other name here, right? So if the name is empty, submit, it tells the name is empty. Correct? So this is how you can use post method. Now remember, post method can carry hundreds of data with it, right? So post method can carry hundreds of data with it, and that is why we used post. Correct? Now similarly, like post, we have one more thing called get method, right? So if you use get method here, so let me use get method here, and I'm going to show you the output what happens. So in this I have used get method, you can see get method here, right? So method is get, again I have used get method here. So if I want to see the output of that, again I'll go back here, I'll just refresh it once again. right? So here when I click on my give my name here and click on the submit button, you can see it will not display here, but it will display on the address bar here. You can see it displays on the address bar, f name is equal to Nitin Sinayak, correct? Now why is this? Because get method displays the data on the address bar itself. Now the difference between post and get method is simple. In post method you can carry unlimited amount of data and you can put it in a separate file, but in get method, whatever you use in get method, it will be displayed directly on the address bar and it can carry very less amount of data, right? So which is used to, the get method is used to collect data from the form after submitting from an HTML form with the method get, and the get can also collect data sent in the URL as well. It can also collect the data which is sent in the URL as well, right? So you can do that as well. So this is how get method is there. So let us see some differences between get method and post method. So these are the few differences between get and post, right? So in get, what happens? Information sent from a form with the get method is visible to everyone, right? As you saw that it will be displayed on your address bar and it can be visible to everyone. All variable names and all the values are displayed in the URL. But in post, information sent from a form with the post method is invincible. You cannot see the data. It will directly go sit in a particular file, and whoever has access to that particular file, he will be able to see that, not everyone, right? So that is a major difference between get and post. Next we have get also has limits on the amount of information to send. Just like I told, get can carry very limited amount of data, but in post, however, because the variables are not displayed in the URL, it is not possible to bookmark the page. In post, it is not possible to bookmark the page. Now get may be used for sending non-sensitive data, right? So if it is not sensitive, you can use get. Get should never be used for sending passwords or other sensitive information. Remember, it will be displayed on the URL, and everybody who has access to that URL can visit and see your passwords if you send it through get, and that is why we are going to use post, right? So developers prefer post for sending form data, and that is why this is the major difference between get versus post. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to learn about MySQL, right? So how do we actually have the access to our database? How do we create a database? How do we insert data into the database or tables, right? So all those things is there in the database. So let us check how do we actually use database. So if you have to use a database which is available in XAMPP, first you have to open the XAMPP control panel and you will have to start the server for MySQL. You can see this MySQL server. You will have to start this, or else your database will not work, right? So after starting with both of these things, you can go to the web browser now and you can search for localhost, that is your server name /phpMyAdmin, right? So this is where your database is. So localhost /phpMyAdmin. So this is how your database looks, right? So few details about this particular database. This particular database is called as MariaDB. Maria database, right? So all this information are available here. The server details via TCP IP, server type is MariaDB, server connection SSL, right? So you can see server version, what is the version which we are using. So you will have to remember this localhost /phpMyAdmin and you will come to your database, right? So user localhost. So you can see all this web browser as well. We are using Apache web browser, you can see here, right? So all these details are available here. If you want to see the documentation, you can directly go here and check the documentation. When you click on it, it will be redirected to the documentation and it will tell you all the different things which are available with PHP. So once you click on this, you can see all those different things are available. So if you are not getting anything, you can directly go to the documentation and you can get that, right? So this is how your database looks. Now before explaining all of these things, I would like to tell you how to create a database first, right? So these are all the system databases: test, PHPMyAdmin, performance schema, or MySQL. Login and demo I have already created, so these are not the system ones. I have created demo and login. Information schema, other than this both, these all are system based database. You should not delete any one of those. It should be there itself, right? So don't touch that. So to create a database, what you have to do now, you'll have to click on new button here. So when you click on new, it will ask for a database name, right? So let me give a database name as FSWD, right? So this is our database name, so I'm going to create a database right now. So the database has been created. Now when you click on this, you can see it shows no tables found, create a table. So if you want to create a table, what you can do, you can give a table number name here, right? So user, I'm going to give the table name as user. How many columns you want, you can choose. If you want 5, 6, 10, 9, you can just do it here. You can see so many columns are available. So just as of now, I'm going to take 2 and click on go here. So when you click on go, your table will be created, and inside the table it will ask you for your different attributes, right? So there are 2 attributes right now because I have added 2 columns. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add username and I'm going to add password. So here it will ask you for your type of the data, whatever you want to enter, it will ask you for a type of the data. Now you can see there are different types of the data which is available. You can see int, varchar, text, date, tiny int, small int. You can see the description is also given there, a 2-bit integer. You can see 1-byte integer, right? So medium is 3-byte integer, int means 4-byte, big int means 8-byte integer, correct? So description is also given to you so that it will be helpful for you to create your database and tables and the different types of data in it, right? So you can see float, double, real, boolean values, date and times, timestamp, right? So all those things you can directly create here. So as of now I'm going to use varchar, so it can consist of number as well as characters, right? So varchar, so it will ask you for a length now, like how many length you want to keep it. So I'm going to give it as 10 normally, so 10 here and 10 here, right? So default it will ask you for as null, all those things. Do not touch anything. If you want to add, you can directly add, or do not touch anything for that. So just click on save here. So when you click on save, your table will be created. You can see a table is created now. You can go click on table structure, you can find the table structure. When you click on relation view, you can find the relation view here, right? So there are foreign key constraints, primary key constraints. Now if you want to make a attribute a primary key, you can just go here and click on this primary more and click on this primary key, and it will ask you, do you want to really execute alter table add primary? Click on OK. Now you can see a key is here. That means this particular attribute has become a primary key, right? So this is a database. So here this is a table. You can see if you want to add one more column into that, you can just add one column after password, click on go, and one column it asks you for a name. So maybe I'm going to put login ID. Again I'm going to use varchar, click on save. So let me add this length as well. So save. Now table has been altered. So if you want to go, just click on browse. So it will ask if you want to see your table, you can just click on this. It will ask structure. Yes, you can see the structure. There are 3 attributes right now, right? So if you want to make it foreign key as well, there are a few options here. You can see primary, unique, index, spatial, full text, distinct values, correct? So all those things can be done here. So this is about your how to create a table, right? So if you want to create one more table, you can just go here, right? So go to structure, or if you want, you can just click on this. Now again it will ask you for many options. See, there are actually many options which is available here, right? So you can just click on the structure. Now you can see propose, track table, move columns, normalize. There are different options which are available. And now I'm going to explain what is this SQL. Now what is this SQL? This is where you can actually write your queries. Now SQL is nothing but a structured query language, right? So you can actually, this is basically a database where you can query the database to retrieve the data or insert the data, correct? So this is SQL, that is structured query language. Now here there's so many options. You can write select means it will select and display the outputs. Select username, login ID. When you click on go, you can see MySQL returned an empty result. Empty result, why? Because I have not given any values in it, right? So I have not given any values, and that is why we have got empty result. Now let me add some values in that. How to add a values? Click on this insert. Now in this insert, username, password, login ID should be same, and here let me do one thing. Just remember, you will have to remove the square brackets here. So let me add my name. So I'm going to add my name, close this. Again value 2, I'm going to add my second name, and here I'm going to add my last name, right? So here I'm going to add my last name. Now you can see, right? So you want to insert that, what you can do, you can click on go here. So if you click on go here, your one row is inserted. Now if you want to check the rows inserted, go back to structure, right? So if you want to see the inserted values, you can go to browse here. So when you click on browse, it will show you username, password and login ID. Correct? So this is how you can use it. So this is SQL, how to insert. If you want to update it, you can directly update it here. You can see we just change the values here and you can directly update it directly here. I want to remove my name and add some other name, I can directly update it here. Again for the delete, you have delete, click on where equals 1. Why? Because there one value there. So okay, click on OK. One row affected, browse, and you can see there's nothing here, it is empty. Correct? Because I deleted it. Right? So you can directly use SQL. This is basically writing your commands for the SQL to insert, delete, update, alter. Correct? So all those things you can do it. Now search. Now here you can see search values, all those things are available here. Now comes the important part, that is insert. You can directly insert the values here itself. Instead of writing the code here, you can directly insert the values in this particular insert option. You can see I'm going to insert my name once again. Right? So I'm going to insert my name here. So now click on go. Now one row inserted. You can see one row inserted. If I go back, you can see it is inserted now. So if I want to delete it, just go back here, click on delete, where equals 1. Okay, click on OK. One row affected, that means there's nothing here. Correct? So this is how you can use your insert command, right? So you can directly use it here as well or here as well, right? So I prefer this because this is very easy to insert it, right? So again you have so many options here. Insert as new row, insert as new row and ignore errors, show insert query, right? So there are different options which are available for you guys. So it depends on your program, it depends on your database about what exactly are you doing there, right? So the next thing we have is export. Now export is nothing but taking your database and creating a file, creating a zip file or a SQL file. So what you can do is you can just select a template for it, right? So you can give a template, maybe I'm going to create a template name as demo. Created, template was created, format SQL, you can see format SQL. Just click on this go button here, there's a go button. You can see user.sql has been created. Now it cannot be directly opened here because it is in a .sql format. So how do we export the SQL database? Now to import it, there's one more option here, that is import. Right, so when you click on it, it will ask you for the import. So choose file. So here I have downloaded the file. Here I can use user.sql. Correct? So again, when you click on go, okay, let me choose the file. Again, SQL format is SQL. So click on go. There's some error again. Import has been successfully finished. 13 queries executed. Correct? So you can directly use this as well. So this is about imports. Next we have privileges. What are the privileges which you have given? So root, username, root privilege, host name, you have local host. All the privileges have been given. So don't worry much about these privileges. Next we have operations. So here you have auto increment, decrement, structure and data. Again, don't worry about these things. Tracking you have, right? So there are different options in this as well. Next we have triggers. Now triggers is like if I want to execute one thing, it will be automatically executes second thing as well. So that is what you can add trigger, right? So this is about how your SQL looks and how to perform the operations here. If you want to drop the table, you can directly use drop here. So you can see if you will have to select the columns first to drop the table, and you can entirely drop the complete table, right? So you can see drop option is available here also. If you want to change anything, just click on change the username here. I'm going to create user itself here, save it. Now you can see user, password, login ID. Correct? So this is how you can use your database here. So if I want to insert lots of data, you can directly insert here, right? So see there are so many options here. Continue insertion with 3 rows. You can see continue insertion with 4 rows, right? So different there. You can actually add n number of data at once like this, right? So when you use this particular insert, you can directly add it there. But yes, it is very time consuming as well. So when you click on this again, you can see the browse option here. So there's nothing here, so I've not added anything there. Correct? So you can see other options here. When you click on settings, you can find different options. So don't worry much about these different options. Main thing you'll have to understand here is your SQL. your structure, how is your structure, then your search, then insert and export. So insert, export and import as well. So if you are, for example, if you have a SQL project which you have done in one system, you will have to export it and you will have to import it in other system, right? So this is very useful for you to actually do the project in 2 or more systems, or else you will have to create a new database, you will have to create a new table there, you will have to insert a new values over there, right? So it will be very difficult for you to do all of those things, and that is why there is one option called export. First export the database, then import it in some other database, right? So this is how we can use your SQL. Now we are going to create an amazing web page where it consists of a login page. Now how do we actually log in using a database? So before that, let me show you. I've created a database called login. Again in login I've created a database called table called login here. So in that I have username and password. So username also I have given Nitin and password also I have given Nitin. So basically I've already created it. Now I'm going to show you how to write a PHP code to retrieve the values from the database, right? So you can see I have already created few files here. So let me show you demo.php, right? So using post I have created demo.php. Let me show you what exactly this is. First of all, I have got the HTML structure here. Here what I have used first of all registration form. Again form action is equal to the same page. If you do not give anything here, that means it will be redirected to the same page. Now method post I have given here, first name, last name and form submitted. So again submit. So basically if I run this, if I go back, again I'm going to use localhost / I'm going to use form / demo.php, correct? So when I click on this, there's some registration form here. So I'm going to give my name and right. So when I click on submit, it will tell thank you Nitin, you have been registered as Nitin Sinha. So right here we are not going to use any database, but I'm going to show you how exactly to do it. Now see, as I told you, a form is very easy. You can create it directly in the same file itself. I have created a PHP. You can see PHP if is set post. I'm getting the thing using post. So I've used this post method here. So post here, form submitted. Now where is this form submitted? You can see this form submitted in this name. Input type hidden, name, form submitted. Now after clicking on the submit button, it will redirect to this PHP file. So now what it says thank you. Again PHP echo $post of first name. So whatever I have entered here, it will be displayed in this part. So using this post. Then again you have registered as echo, same thing, again last name, correct? You can see the output here. Thank you Nitin, so you have been registered as full name. For that full name what I have used, first name plus last name, correct? So again if you want, again go back to the same page here. So when I click on this, it will go back to this registration forms. So this is without using SQL. Now I'm going to create a login form, right? So to create a login form, first we have to understand how to connect to our database, right? So that is very important. So for that, what I'm going to use this simple code here. I'm going to explain what is this. This is called connection.php. You can save it as config.php. You can save it as connection.php, right? So it depends on what you are saving. Now I'm going to show you how. First I'm going to create a PHP file. Now remember, PHP and SQL are linked together. When you start this XAMPP, it will be linked together. So that is why this particular thing works. If you have not started any server or PHP or your database, it will not work, right? So let me show you. If I stop this, if I both stop this and if I open this, click on refresh, it's refreshing, but there will be an error now. Right, so there is an error. Why? Because we have not started this. So let me start this. So when I click on start, if I click refresh now, this will appear, right? So this, make sure both the things should be started when you are using a database and PHP, right? So now host name. So what is our host name? So here you can see our host name, that is localhost, right? So this is our host name. Next we have user. I have already told you the privileges which we have. If I go on to click on privileges, you can see root. Correct? So here you can see root. So do we have passwords here? There is no password here, right? So let me tell you, there is no password, and that is why the password space is empty. Now DB name is nothing but your database name. So I have created a database called login here. So this is our database name. So you'll have to use your database name here, right? So now I've created a variable called $connection. $connection is equal to MySQL connect. So basically this command, this particular command will connect to the database. Now you can see $host, $user, $password and $db name. So all these things will be taken from here and it will connect to the database. And if the database name exists, then it will work. If it does not exist, you can see if MySQL connect, it has an error, that is error, it will say fail to connect with MySQL, or it can say the error here. If the database exists, if the connection is proper, then you will get proper connection. But if the connection is not proper or if the database name is wrong, you will get an error called fail to connect with database. So let me add some name here. So let me run this particular thing, right? So here I'm going to use connection, right? So connection.php. You can see unknown database, there is an error now. So unknown database. Now but if I use login, the database exists, again refresh it, you can see nothing happens. That means that you have connected to the database, right? So this is how you connect to the database. $connection, you can give any variable name here, and this is very important, MySQLi connect, host, user, password and DB name. DB name is already here, right? So after this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to first create an index.html first. Now index.html, what is that index.html? This is our form details. Now here I'm going to use index.html. When I click on it, you can see this particular form there. This is a basic form, right? I have not used much styling here, only few stylings I have used here. So now what I'm going to do, you can see all this form data, you can directly do it here, username, right? Just remember when you are using this form, just remember in your form, your action should be your PHP file which you have given. That authentication.php, this is where I'm gonna connect to, this is where actually I'm gonna check the database with our entered username and password. So entered username and password will already exist here. You can see my entered username password already is there. Now I want to check whether this login ID and entered login ID is correct or not. If it is correct, it will move to the next page. If it is not correct, it will say an error. Simple, right? So again here, let me show you. I have created in index.html. I have created, again I have a form action is equal to authentication.php. That means whenever I click on this submit button, it will be redirected to this authentication.php. Correct? So this is form, you can directly create the form here. Again I have added a style.css. If you want, you can style your own forms as well using Bootstrap, using jQuery, right? All those things you can do it. Now this is your simple form, but what happens here, that is authentication. When you click on this submit button, it will redirect to the authentication.php. Now in authentication.php, you will have to add the code to compare the details entered here in your browser and the details which exist in your database. So if it is correct, your login ID is successful. If it is wrong, your login ID is wrong. So how do we do it? First we'll include this connection. So you can directly include, or I have created this connection separately, right? So you can directly include it using include of that particular file name. Now after that, I'm going to create two variables. First one is username and password. Now I'm going to store it, that is username. I'm going to collect the data from this particular index. This name and the post name should be the same. If it is not the same, you will get an error, right? So this particular name, whatever you want to retrieve, should be same as this. Correct? So we'll have to use the same name here. So this particular username will be taken from the form data and it will be stored in this particular variable. So it will be taken from the form data and it will be stored in this particular variable. The same thing happens for the password here. Now after that, this particular variable is equal to strip C/. That means if there are any slashes in the entered data, it will remove that of this particular username. If there are any slashes or forward slashes or backward slashes, it will remove that. So it will clean the data first, right? So it has cleaned the data here. Next, again for the same password also we are doing the same thing here. Now here $username is equal to MySQLi real escape string. So basically this escapes the string, right? So you can see this connection which is made here. Already this connection was in this connection.php, right? So it will connect to the database and username is also taken there. For the same thing again, password should also be taken. So basically two variables are taken here, username and password, right? So once you do that, I'm going to select now that this is a command called dollar. If you want to execute any SQL commands, you'll have to use $SQL in PHP. Now select star means everything, star means all these things, username and password both. Star means it is selecting all from what? From login, from this particular table, right? Login table. So it is selecting everything from login table where username is equal to my username. Now it is comparing here. You can see username, that is this username is equal to this particular username from the form data which we have taken. It is comparing the database variable with the entered number here. You can see that, right? So again for this password, the same thing here, correct? So now what happens, again it will be stored in the result. You can see querying. So basically this is used to query. So query of $connection and $SQL, it will be stored in result. Now row MySQL fetcher, it will fetch the array directly from our database. You can see result is there and MySQL association, right? So basically this is already done. Now again count. So we are counting the number of rows which is present there. Okay, first it will compare and it will count the number. Now after that, if the count is equal to 1, since there are only one data which is entered here, the same data, you have to select if count is equal to 1, you will echo login successful. If it is wrong, if the comparison is wrong, if you have entered the wrong details, then it will say login failed, invalid username, correct? So let me show you this output. Now you can see I'm going to use some username, some password. Click on this login. You can see login failed, invalid username or password. Again go back, refresh. Now I'm going to use the original username and password, that is my name here, both my name, right? So here I'm going to use my name. Again here also I'm going to use the same thing. Now when I click on login, it will say login successful. That means it has compared successfully, right? So both the entered data and the database data are the same, and that is why you have gone into the next page, or the whatever page you want to give, you can directly give it there. If it is wrong, you will display a error message called login failed, invalid username or password, right? So again go back here, again go back. Now if I don't give anything here and click on login, it will say username and password fields are empty. Now this is not your default one, you will have to write a code for that as well. That is called as form validation. So let me tell you what is form validation. Now here, as you can see, in form validation you will have to write a function here. You can see this function validation, right? So here you can see variable id is equal to document.f1.user value, right? So user.value. Now again password.value. So where is this particularly? You can use anything here, user.value, password.value, right? So after that, if id length is equal to nothing, so see there's nothing here. So if id username is empty and if password is also empty, you'll have to alert this message called username and password fields are empty. Now else, if only id is empty, username is empty. If only password is empty, password field is empty. So let me check. If both are empty, it will say both are empty. If only password is empty, it will say password field is empty. Correct? So you'll have to write that code as well here. Now, but when to call it? You're calling it directly on submit. You can see on submit, what you have to do? On submit, you will have to return that particular validation function. So I've already written a function for it here. Correct? And that is why when you click on the submit button, it will redirect to this. If it is empty, it will redirect to this, and this function will be executed, right? So this is about form validation. When you are using a form, you'll have to understand this very important thing, that is HTML special cas. Now what is this function? This is a function which converts special characters to HTML entities. Why it converts special characters to entities? Because this means that it will replace HTML characters like angular brackets and with alt ampersand lt and ampersand dt, that is greater than. This prevents attackers from exploiting the code by injecting HTML or JavaScript code, right? So basically this will help for you to actually make sure that your website or your form is safe, right? So you can see in the following code, let me show you this code. Here you can see this error. You can see this is required error. So just like I told you, I used an alert there, but instead of alert you can directly use errors here, right? So if server request method is post, if it is empty, particularly empty, then it should say an error called name is required, right? So instead of alert you can directly use this as well.